Welcome to the KVJ After the Show podcast.
Kevin's eyes look insane, but he's got new hair. Virginia is a witch, and she farts in her chair. Jason is a spaz who's got an old man's ass. Welcome to the After the Show podcast.
Yeah, we're doing Friday the way Fridays should be done, with a little booze here today. We got Dave, Alexia, and Peebo from Brick and Barrel in Jupiter. And it kind of continues a little bit of a conversation I was having a week ago with my oldest son, Colin, who works at Corsair Distilling in Nashville, Tennessee.
They used to have a location in Bowling Green, Kentucky. That's how I know Corsair, because my dad lives there.
Okay.
So I spent a lot of time at that distillery because it was one of the few fun places in the whole entire town of Bowling Green.
Gotcha, okay.
And now Corsair moved south, and they're in Nashville. They're north of Nashville.
Yeah, they have a few places there. My son, if you ever go, because I think they have... I don't know, Dave, you know the term where you can go and drink.
Tasting room.
Yeah. Is that what it is? Tasting room?
Yeah.
Okay.
They do tours of the distillery, and then you come to the tasting room where you can try everything.
So when you get VIP like us, we get to actually go and like taste right out of the barrel, which is really cool.
Wow.
They use the thief is what they call it. It's a long
turkey baster.
Yeah, exactly. The turkey baster, right?
I love it.
Yeah, so my son is not at that. He is at the where they just make it.
He's at the place where they don't have like people walking through.
It's
There's
not fabulous.
There's no pedestrians.
It's still called the distillery.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's just a distillery, but there aren't people there trying stuff.
They didn't make it pretty like the one in Nashville.
It's not pretty.
I
No.
kind of like the rustic ones. Like that's where it's really cool when you go in the place and it's just like some good dudes making bourbon. And it's not real fancy.
It's authentic.
Yeah.
We were talking because Peebo, he is from Dalton, Georgia, which is North Georgia, and my family road trip that we just took, we went up through a lot of those towns. We went through Dalton, which is right there by Chattanooga, and you got Knoxville, and then we wound up in Lexington and Louisville. And
Okay.
between those states, Tennessee and Kentucky, they just, the whiskey is just, it's amazing, whether it be, the Tennessee whiskey or Kentucky bourbon. And that's why we love that road trip. Because there's so many, if you're a drinker and you love breweries and distilleries and restaurants and people that drink, and they're all so nice. They're quaint. They're cool, beautiful little towns where you can go and get some cocktails. And that's why it's such a great road trip path to take. And yeah, it was Peebo that was saying that, right up there in Chattanooga, he said that's a great drinking town.
Did Peebo go to the restroom?
He sure did.
Okay, Peebo might be locked out in the lobby because you can't get back in once you go
I didn't
out.
tell him about scanning the.
And I don't know how to pour anything, so he better get back in here.
Denny's! We need you to go rescue Peebo!
Yeah.
So
He's gonna get him.
I'm like, where the hell's
He's gonna
Peebo?
miss it all.
Oh, Peebo's got locked out.
But and also you talk about like Tennessee whiskey, and that's the big misnomer with bourbon is that it all has to come from Kentucky. It doesn't. It just has to follow those guidelines of what makes a bourbon. Tennessee makes fantastic bourbon. Like 60% of the bourbon that's not from Kentucky is actually made in Indiana.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a big contract distiller up there that makes a lot of the stuff. If you want to start a bourbon company, you call them and they make you your first couple of batches.
Oh, wow.
And they do make really good stuff. It's for what it's worth, it's really good.
Okay. Yeah, that was it. Just talking to my son Colin last Friday, it was hard to follow because there seems like there's so many specs and regulations. But I was talking between the regular show and the after the show here with Dave and Peebo, knowledgeable about it. Because the question I had from my son was, who regulates this? And he said, well, I think it's ATF that does it, because I expected there were going to be scammers that would come in and look at these bottles of the bourbon. It looks like iced tea.
Right.
And I had said that to Dave. I said, couldn't you see somebody when they were talking about how you want to go to Brick and Barrel and you can get one shot for $150. So imagine that. If you've got that bottle and somebody wants to maybe put a little bit of tea in there, maybe there's a little bit of bourbon, but it's not the real thing.
You kind of mask it a bit.
You get somebody that doesn't know, that their palate wouldn't immediately go, wait a minute, this isn't right.
Like us. Like we wouldn't know if you watered it down or not.
Right. And Dave had a fascinating story because he had an empty bottle of a very expensive bourbon that somebody wanted to buy, and he said no. And tell me why.
Yeah, we had a Pappy Van Winkle 12, which is on like the secondary market. Will sell for $1,200, $1,500.
Wow.
And we finished the bottle, and they were like, "Hey, I'll buy that bottle off you for $500." And I wouldn't sell. I'm like, "No, I don't know what you're gonna do with it. I don't know if you're gonna, fill it up with
Other stuff and pass it off.
$15 or whatever, and then wax the top and sell it to somebody on the secondary market."
You're right. If I went in there and you said, this is a $1,500 shot and blah, 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 and you just poured in some bullshit, I would never know.
No.
I mean, especially if
we
you're
would,
drinking.
But
You
yeah,
would.
Like I did that. I felt bad. I did it on a tasting once. Somebody did a flight, and they wanted like 5 of our best, and I thought it'd be funny because I knew them to throw in like a $12 bourbon.
Oh, that's funny.
And they're like, "Oh, we we love this." And I'm like, "Oh, shit."
And you almost can't say it.
No, I didn't say no. It's something else. Like, what is this? I'm like, private reserve.
Private reserve.
It was Virginia.
So I would be that person because I admitted that I did not even know that bourbon and scotch are all whiskeys. I thought they were their own category.
Me too.
Didn't even know that it was all just different forms of whiskey. And that's, where my son was talking about how they break it down, how they make it, how they age it. I guess that's a big part of it. I got confused with the barrels for this, and they take a barrel that is aged bourbon and they'll use it to age something else and all that kind of stuff.
Every bourbon that comes out or every whiskey comes out clear, right? It's distillate. So
it comes out clear.
Yeah, they call it white dog.
White dog.
Is it the aging process that then gives it the color?
Barrel.
It's all the barrel.
Everything that you see, every difference in bourbon, other than like the mash bill, is going to be about how it's aged.
Huh.
And
so I've got a question for you then. Are barrels, can they be very valuable?
Oh, yeah.
Or you would say because you have this barrel that it will make this kind of bourbon, and thus I'm going to sell it to you for $10,000.
I mean, that goes down to like the majority of barrels made in the U.S., I believe, are the Ozarks, right, people?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
okay.
So like, again, a charred new American oak barrel, meaning, it's brand new. It's been charred. They have different levels of how they char it.
Yeah.
And it's all different. And then, that makes the bourbon, but it's also, they store it in rick houses. So
what's a rick house?
It's like this old brick building, and it's 5-6 stories high, and it goes, they'll store 100,000 barrels in these rick houses.
Oh wow!
And
is rick like a type of wood or a brick?
Like
or a
take
dude.
brick and then lose the B, and you've got rick house.
Yeah.
So
But what is rick?
it's just what they call it.
Okay.
I don't know.
There has to be a story there.
There's a story.
Yeah.
We don't know it, unfortunately. But and where these barrels sit in the rick house actually determine what the bourbons will be. So you go to Buffalo Trace, and they've got like their sweet spot, and in that sweet spot will be like your Pappy,
What makes it a sweet spot?
It's where the climates change. It's
temperature,
Like
humidity,
gravity
light,
and,
things
like-
like that.
It's really nothing that you can quantify. Just the master distillers have learned over time that, this spot, for whatever reason, always makes a good barrel.
That's so insane to
It's
me.
something probably
What?
about how the temperature is. Heat rises. In Kentucky, your weather always goes from hot to cold, so you're getting a lot of push and pull in the barrels. So like temperature changes.
I'm gonna take some notes
matter.
because when I talk to my son Colin again,
Temperature
yeah.
changes,
I'm gonna be
push and pull.
I mean, so of course, do you guys have a sweet spot?
You should blow his mind.
I
Yeah.
should. Okay.
Honey hole. That's what they call
honey
it.
hole.
Hold all
Honey
this
hole.
shit and go there and go. So where's the honey hole at?
Yeah.
and this is part of the reason why you don't have bourbon in Florida, right? It's that the climate doesn't change enough. There's not enough variance in the climate, and also because we produce corn. Palm Beach County is a huge producer of corn. So
We
it's
do?
not
Yeah. I didn't know that.
So it's not because we don't have the product. It's that there's just not enough variance. There's not enough elevation. There's not breeze throughout the year. These rick houses, all the windows will be open in them, and they're just exposed to the elements. And they build them like up on these great hills in Kentucky, these rolling hills.
Yeah, right.
And actually, one of our favorite suppliers, which is Garrison, they're out of Texas. When they first built their distillery and they aged their first batch of bourbon, the barrels exploded because the temperature was too hot.
Wow.
So they had to create. They basically made their own reinforced barrel to withstand the Texas heat.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's
That's
really neat.
insane. I never. So in a sense, isn't that kind of like what the Champagne is, where you have wine country and it's the right climate, and then you've got a certain name for champagne because it's from a certain area?
Yeah. I mean that's exactly what it is.
Like a Napa.
Yeah.
As you say in the business.
What?
Just being a dick.
He's just saying shit.
Yeah, like Napa.
I'm trying to act like
Auto
I know.
parts?
I'm trying to act like I know.
Auto parts.
Yeah. So what am I trying right here, and what level
Yes,
are we at,
Peebo,
Peebo?
tell us.
So yeah, you're starting with one of our hand-selected barrels. So when we go up to Kentucky, this one's actually out of Michigan, and we taste through a bunch of barrels.
Wait, Michigan does bourbon too?
They sure do.
You're hard pressed to find a state that doesn't. Except
Really?
For Florida.
Except for
There
Florida.
is one in Florida. I mean, St. Augustine Distillery has great bourbons up there, but they get a little bit more climate change.
See, I didn't know that. I thought all like your whiskeys and bourbons came from Kentucky or Tennessee. No.
Yeah, definitely a misnomer. But yeah, it's America's spirit. So as long as it's made in America and follow a couple of other rules, you can definitely put bourbon on the label. So this one is hand selected by us. It's kind of why you go to the Bourbon Trail. It tastes the best of the best. But they save their best barrels for restaurants like us or Total Wine, ABC, liquor stores. And so we tasted these, and this is our house bourbon, 86 proof. It's going to be entry level for you.
Okay.
Bunch of caramel. It's
I
5
was gonna
years
say,
old.
yeah, you can smell that. Now, is this
unlike wine, you don't want to swirl it, right? That's
Oh.
You
that's
don't.
I'm
No,
over here
no.
swirling.
I'm over here
over.
swirling
So
like a
wine
mad
is like
woman.
Virginia's wine is like 15%, right? But everybody else's is usually like 13 or 14%.
Yeah.
So with bourbon, if you swirl it, you're just swirling up all the alcohol that's in the bourbon.
Oh.
So you're gonna get a lot of alcohol flavor. Now this one is on the lighter side. This isn't like a super high proof bourbon, but the first thing you want to do is just take like a really small sip of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're gonna get a little burn, even though it's people and I are already on to the 115 or whatever it is. But this tiny little sip, and look at Virginia's face, like it's just like ooh.
That's not a tiny sip, Kev.
So and what you feel there,
dancing.
that's commonly called like the Kentucky hug, right? Like you get that warm feeling in your chest, that little bit of a burn.
Kentucky hug.
Yeah, and then after you take that first sip, and your brain and your palate kind of wake up and say, "Oh shit, that was something." Then you want to kind of take a little bit bigger sip, kind of let it marinate a little bit. But that's kind of the way to drink bourbon is to do it that way.
Gosh,
Am
I'm
I-
learning so much.
Am I a little bitch if I do a chaser after? Or try
No.
Okay.
No, bourbon is whatever you want it to be, right?
I like that.
Like if the way they always say, the way you want to drink it is the way you drink it. So if you want to do
Okay.
bourbon and Coke, do bourbon and Coke. We have cubes
Yeah.
if you want to do a cube. Like, it's really about how you like it. It's not pretentious. It's not like Champagne
No
region
certain
of
way.
France,
Yeah.
So it's really just kind of how do you feel about it? What do you want to do? You want to drink it?
He wants to shoot it.
I kind of want to smoke a cigar, and I'd never even done that before. I feel
Funny story.
classy.
Yeah, when we were up there, one of the distillers we went to, like the guy that was part of the experience was he's like, all right, we're gonna smoke cigars now, and I'm like, I guess we're smoking cigars now.
I think it'd kill me, but I want to
When
try
in Kentucky.
That's right.
yeah.
That's right. So it really is an experience. Now, the one thing that I'm kind of noticing too is it kind of, they talk about wine that has legs that runs down. I'm kind of seeing that as well. Is that
Yeah, a little bit of the viscosity of it is, for lack of a better word, but
It looks like it's got legs.
It's definitely got some body to it.
yeah.
She's a big girl.
Yeah, she's dancing. She's moonwalking on my tongue.
She's giving me a lap dance.
This is only 86 proof. I've got 123 proof here.
Holy shit.
Later.
So what we brought for you guys, just to kind of give you the rundown, and I doubt that we're going to taste all these, but and I'll let people talk more about what the brand is, but this brand Bacta, we're actually doing a bourbon dinner with them next Tuesday, and it's a really cool story. But they do a lot of different barrel finishes on these, so you can make your bourbon, and then you can finish in something else, and it can still be called bourbon. So you can take your bourbon, age it 4 years in your new oak barrels, and then put it into like a port barrel, or you can put it into
Angel's Envy.
yeah, Angel's Envy. That's what they do, and then like this one is. How do you say that? Calvados?
Calvados.
I don't know. Calvados.
So you would
Calvados
put
barrels.
it into
Yeah.
a barrel that once housed port wine.
Yeah, secondary.
And
but yeah.
secondary after the oak, then you could go to a port wine barrel, and then it has a totally different flavor.
Totally. And these two here, and we'll make sure that we taste those, but those are also aged in Armagnac barrels. And Peebo, what's the 1928? That's
So 1928 is going to be the flagship product for Bacta. It's going to be a blend. The cool thing about it is it does have 5% juice from Calvados from 1928. So almost 100 years ago, this stuff was distilled. So
Wow.
there is 5% of that in the 1928, 60% rye. Let's see, it tells me here 30% Exo Calvados, which is 6 to 10 years old. And then there's 10% of stuff from 1928, 1941, 62, 73, and 96.
We're drinking the past.
We're
That's
drinking
it. I
your
mean,
ancestors.
Unreal.
Whenever you're drinking spirits,
Yeah.
aged spirits, brown spirits, you're
Yeah.
drinking history, you're drinking the past,
Yeah,
100%.
People and I, we kind of went into it because we had this conversation on the trip too with my daughter Caitlin. I was telling her about prohibition. She was like, it was blowing her mind that it was illegal to have alcohol in the United States.
What do you mean, Dad?
People, what was that year? So if you're talking about this being a 1928, when did prohibition? What were the years that you could not get alcohol?
So prohibition was in the U.S. And it was from 1920 to 1933.
Wow.
So it's kind of why
So
America.
was this illegal stuff that was made? That,
No, because this was made in France.
Armagnac was
So Armagnac and
okay.
Calvados are both basically brandy, like you were saying with champagne. They're just from different
now,
regions.
is brandy
of
a
France.
whiskey too? What is
No,
brandy?
brandy is not a whiskey.
Okay.
Brandy is its own or it's not a subcategory. It's
Yeah.
its own category.
Okay. Duh.
Basically distilled from grapes normally. Calvados is distilled from apples and or pears, and that's from
Okay.
Normandy, France, where Armagnac is from a southwest region and is distilled from wine. So it's definitely a different distillate, no corn at all.
Okay.
Going to be sweeter than a bourbon or a rye or anything.
Mm-hmm.
like
So
that.
we're drinking France.
So you can see how easily we get nerded out on this stuff.
I get it.
And that's why Peebo, I'm like, that's a good question. Peebo.
Right.
People jumps right in.
Oh, he knows it. Yeah,
He
he's
is Wikipedia
So
of booze.
One of the cool things
Or
we
Chat
do.
GPT, if we want to be modern.
You're right. You're right.
So
Tebow.
all of our staff, the ones that sell anyway, we put them through like a bourbon training. So everybody has like a bourbon qualification. Like Peebo has done his bourbon certification. I've done mine. Our bartenders all have to do it when they come in. So he speaks to it better than most. But we live and breathe this shit every day. It's the fun part of our job.
You can tell you guys know your shit. You
Yeah.
can
I
tell
know.
you're
Yeah,
you're
we
passionate.
do. Yeah, and you asked about the prohibition time, and the distilleries didn't stop making bourbon. They started making medicinal bourbon, and instead of and you basically went to your doctor and you were prescribed one bottle of bourbon. I think. Do you remember how many times they could get it?
So it's almost like a medical marijuana is
Yeah,
what it
it
was?
was-
during
100% exactly the same thing.
Wow.
So you could
I did
actually
not
go to
know that
your
either.
doctor and say, hey, I've got this ailment, and he would, okay, I'll prescribe you one bottle of bourbon, per week or whatever, and you could get like 2 per household or something, and you'll see some of these old bottles throw back to like the medicinal times.
Yeah.
Like there's some brands that use like the old school Bullets one. I think Peerless is another one that they use like their old timey medicinal bottles that they were using in the 20s.
I never knew that.
I
No.
think if I remember some of the old cartoons when I was a kid, I thought I remembered seeing references to Grandpappy would have his little medicine bottle
Yeah.
and the jugs and
Yeah,
all that.
That's
and
it. That was the kind of the rub.
And then the triple X on it,
Yes,
poison.
it did. It has
Yes,
a triple X on
triple
it.
X.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My tattoo.
Oh, that's so cool. And there you
Oh,
go.
look at
People's, of
that.
course, got a tattoo with that on it.
Triple X for bad alcohol. whatever,
Yeah.
but also, that's 1933, which is the end of Prohibition.
Wow.
We did
That's
a
cool
promotion.
stuff.
I think it was 3 years ago where we did like Repeal Day, and we sold old fashions for how much were they? Like 25 cents. or
25
something?
cents.
Yeah, it was
Wow,
we did
that's
it once,
fun.
and that was the end of that. It was-
We lost hundreds, if not thousands.
200 old fashioned. We only did it for an hour, and I sold over 200 old fashions.
That's a cool promotion, though. I love
Yeah.
that.
Never again.
Never again.
It's a cool thing.
We
Now,
took it in the shorts.
if somebody comes into Brick and Barrel, you've talked about that where you can get a flight, and if somebody wants to maybe get the education and step into it, because I'm fascinated by it. I'm a complete novice. I'm learning so much on this. You have it where you could almost hold somebody's hand, or do you have special tastings? How does this work for you guys?
Both, yeah. I mean, Peebo. If you walk into Brick and Barrel, there's a 90% chance you'll see Peebo and a 10% chance you'll see me.
Okay.
So if you see Peebo, he is happy to walk you through like a great tasting. We also do monthly bourbon dinners, and that's our opportunity to really highlight brands like Bacta, or we're doing Sazerac in January, where we'll go through the spirit with people and we'll tell them about it. We'll tell them how it's made. Our clientele is starting to get to the point where they kind of know how the sausage is made, for so to speak.
Yeah.
But we love to do the informational side of it too. We love to educate people because most people don't know. They say, oh, well, I'm a Scotch guy, and I'm like, well, I guess you're not American because you don't love bourbon.
Yeah, America.
It's bourbon, and but there's a lot of misconceptions about all of this stuff, and even like Japanese whiskey. Not to say that it's not good, but they're allowed to put artificial coloring into Japanese whiskey.
Okay.
They age it less time, so they'll age it for like a year or 2 years, and they'll add caramel color to it to kind of give it the right color, because you can't fake color. You can't fake, like you can tell if you went and looked at the bottles here, you could tell like which one's aged longer.
Huh.
Let me see if I
The
can-
darker the bottle, the longer the aging.
Yeah, it's kind of like the blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice.
I
Kind of thing.
like
Yeah.
it.
Is bourbon something you mix drinks with?
If you want, there's no wrong way to drink it.
Yeah.
It's I don't mind having like a bourbon and Sprite every once in a while if I
Okay.
know that they're not going to be able to make an old fashioned, and I'm very spoiled because Peebo is one of the best bartenders
Yeah.
I've ever been around.
Is he the best
He is the
old-fashioned maker you
He
know?
is, and it's like you can make one as good as us, but you're not going to make one better.
Gotcha.
And
Today is Bartender Appreciation Day.
Is it really?
Oh,
Yeah, it
everybody
is.
needs to go and tip Peebo today
Yeah.
at Brick and Barrel in Abacoa.
I'll be there till close tonight. So.
I love it.
So
You have
which
a long day.
Pay this man.
without knowing the labels here, which one where do you think the aging is on these, Jaybird?
So I'm gonna go. The oldest is probably this girl right here.
So that's a 7-year.
I was kind of feeling it.
But you're right.
Okay.
That one spent more time in the barrel than its sister one. Right here.
Okay, and
It's not the oldest.
the oldest. I'm gonna go. Hold on, let me really get into this.
So if you really know your stuff, you can eyeball and look at, because some of them are lighter, some of them are darker, and I assume does that speak to the age or does it speak to the barrel?
It speaks to the time in the barrel.
There's my
Speaks to the
girl.
time in the barrel.
I got her.
So I'd imagine the darker
Yeah,
the
he
longer.
got it.
Okay.
He got it right.
Peebo, you should be proud.
So the
That one
darker
is
the
50
bourbon.
years old.
50
No
years
shit, yeah.
old.
Really?
I think we should try it.
I think we should try it too.
do it.
Let's do it.
So is
Oh
that
my
it? So the
gosh.
longer a bourbon stays in the barrel, the darker it will be?
Yeah, so it will pick
People's
up
kind of
more
like
of
a
that.
yes, no.
Yeah.
It's
It
like
also
a,
depends on where you're aging it. So, like Garrison Brothers, again, one of our favorite brands out of Texas, their whiskey tends to be darker than stuff from Kentucky, even though it's younger. But it's because of the climate there.
Climate.
It's spending, as it gets sucked into the barrel, basically,
Yeah.
it spends more time in there because it doesn't get cold, so it doesn't get pushed out. So in Texas, I find their whiskey to be a little bit darker, even
Yeah.
though it's a bit younger.
okay.
And older doesn't mean better.
It doesn't, okay.
No, so like for me, I tend to find that I tend to like things like 10 to 12 years.
Okay.
I find that
That's your sweet spot.
yeah, well, not sounding weird, but yeah, that's kind of it. And like
Yeah.
I find that things that start to go over 15 years for me, you'll see with this one, it just picks up a lot of oak. And
Okay.
I want to taste more of the flavor profile than necessarily a lot of oak. So it's different. Peebo and I have very different tastes on bourbon.
Well, what are the flavors that you're going to get? Because you mentioned caramel, now you're mentioning oak. Is there kind of a palate that you could say that it goes down? These are the scales. At a certain age, you'd have more caramel, you'd have more oak at this age.
For sure, yeah. The older it gets, the more oak you're going to get. But there's, young bourbons will have like high corn flavor. Some will have vanilla, stone fruit, caramel, brown sugar. I mean,
clear this out for you.
it's take care of that one real quick.
Take it down.
And there is a flavor profile that I really enjoy that has like this kind of brown sugary sweetness to it. I love high corn too, so like something that's like way corny. Really gets me excited. Peebo's a hothead, so he likes them. The hotter the better.
Well,
Like
he's a sexy ginger.
Yeah, he is.
Maybe that's why it is.
So he likes his bourbons like in the 125 proof.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I mean that's like 70.
Peebo drinks like a
65% alcohol.
How long were you drinking bourbons before you kind of found your spot? Does it change, or when you kind of settle in, then you know what you like?
It definitely changes. I do tend to like higher proof stuff
So does
more
Jaybird.
often than not.
I want to dance right now.
Yeah.
Wait till you have this Armagnac.
Oh my god,
50 years old. man.
You're gonna give Peebo a lap dance.
Come on.
I am Ubering.
I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it.
If you want to steal out of my Jeep, it will be at the station for the next weekend.
So this is distilled from wine, no corn. This is not bourbon. This is Armagnac. You're able to age in Ireland and Scotland and France way longer than you can in the States. Again, we're all talking about climate. So 50 years.
50 years.
In a barrel.
Dang.
How about that?
Cheers, big ears.
Cheers.
Peebo looked at me like I was crazy when I said to bring this bottle along because he's like, "Wait, that one?" I was like, "Yeah, that one. Let's taste it."
That is good.
Now that one just really, there's a ton more going on with that thing than the last one we just had.
Oh yeah.
Insanely complex.
Yeah.
It's got that kind of funkiness to it, right?
It does. It when it hits your tongue, it's almost like a nuclear bomb that you would, and it hits through the entire mouth.
She dances different.
Yeah. A nice cold sip of water, it kind of to dull your palate a little bit always helps. I don't know if you know, I just took one because it's
Mine's straight up Coca-Cola.
Okay.
There you go. Just dump it right. Oh, it's already gone. Okay.
Oh, yeah, he drank it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the notes.
Yeah. Really fascinating stuff. I love this. This is really cool to get an education. And, the thing that I love with Peebo, too, is talking about the history and just how much, in America, look, we had the Prohibition era, but alcohol really has infused itself through the growth of America. And if you love history and you love booze, I mean, what a better combo.
Someone's got a bourbon boner over there.
He's no longer bourbon curious. He's like 100%.
He loves history and he loves drinking.
Yeah, so you get into it like Al Capone, if you want to talk about history. I mean, one of the first bootleggers.
Had a place on Palm Beach, right?
He did, yeah. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Bootlegging is the cause of NASCAR. The reason we have NASCAR is because of bootlegging.
I remember that I learned that by watching the Dukes of Hazzard, an old show back in the day, and they were.
I know it. Yeah,
they were the moonshine runners, and that was their whole thing.
Yeah, my granddaddy ran moonshine.
That's so cool.
For sure. I wish I was into alcohol when he was alive, so I could ask him about it more.
Right.
But
the stories he must have.
Oh man,
I could only imagine.
How fast did cars go then?
You're making a break.
Miles an hour.
Yeah, 30 miles an hour.
They're running a
everybody.
horse? Like, what's going on here? That's so cool.
Yeah,
Wow.
and I think the other thing is just to get it out there, and we do a really good job of showing people like what they should drink. And there's so many stigmas that you're like, oh, I had bourbon in college and I hated it, and it's like I had Jack Daniels and we're like, hey,
right,
that's not bourbon.
Yeah, right. Have somebody walk you through it.
On that, but you know what I mean?
It's not.
Yeah, I mean, so there's all these like misconceptions, and not saying that like Jim Beam or any of those guys are bad or good or whatever, but
yeah,
a lot of times when you think you've had something, you probably haven't had anything worth trying.
Yeah.
So that's where like even our house bourbon, it's delicious. We picked it. We went to the distillery. We tasted 10 barrels of this, and we're like, no, that's the one that we want to be Brick and Barrel's house bourbon.
Right.
Yeah, when you hear house bourbon, you don't think of something of quality normally. You're like, oh, I'll just take whatever, house bourbon. I can guarantee you we're the only restaurant in town that has a hand-selected single barrel as our house bourbon.
Yeah.
$10 all day, $5 on happy hour. Like, it's insane. Like,
Kev,
what it is.
Do you have any sexy music?
Do you want to give Peebo that promised lap dance?
The Armagnac's hitting.
People, he can't handle this shit.
The thing I love about what you guys do, and even if you don't find yourself to be a whiskey, a bourbon drinker, all this stuff, I find myself in so many circles where a conversation is happening and I'm so lost because I don't know anything. Mm-hmm. So even if I don't wind up walking away from this being a bourbon drinker, to know a little bit of the history of it and know how it's aged and how it's made so I can kind of hang a little bit in the conversation and relate to what people are saying, I love to get the information about it.
Hey, that's our goal. Is like we want people to get excited. I mean, my wife is like, man, I wish I loved bourbon because the way you talk about it, it's really great. And then she takes a sip and she's like, bad.
But we introduced her to Sunsets and Car Crashes. They're also an excellent cocktail bar. I'll throw that on my back there. His wife tastes bourbon neat or on a rock and hates it, but then one of her favorite cocktail every time she comes in is a bourbon cocktail. If you're interested in bourbon and you want to get into it, start with a cocktail. Start with a Gold Rush. Come to the bar, sit down. Let me make you something.
What's her favorite one called? Sunsets?
It's called Sunsets and Car Crashes. It's the name of a song, one of my favorite bands from my emo stage when I was in middle school.
Okay.
And yeah, it's a cherry infused bourbon from Traverse City, Michigan. The barrel proof bourbon, which we'll taste here in a minute. And then like lemon, pomegranate, sweet vermouth, cinnamon. And it's super beautifully, really balanced. Probably one of our top sellers outside of Old Fashions.
It's an 8-step cocktail, and her coworkers came in the other night, and they were ordering 2 at a time, and the bar was just dying right in front of us. Like literally, they were like, "We'll have that," and we're like, "Oh my god, this is a really complex cocktail to make."
Yeah,
and they're like slamming them like it's water.
It's fascinating stuff.
That's amazing.
It really is. Yeah, no, I do appreciate you guys coming in here. I've got to remain somewhat sober today, so. I think, I know.
Bitch.
You're a bitch.
We only have 6 more bottles to taste, and we can all go home. By the way, it's,
carry me out of here.
I am Ubering home.
This is delicious.
It is absolutely fantastic. I appreciate you guys coming in because this is such a cool education, and to have a place. I'm going to come and bring my wife and just kind of sit down and.
Yeah, the food's pretty great too. Like we've got a really nice restaurant. Virginia has given us numerous shout outs. Over the years with like Palm Beach Food and Wine
Jay
Festival.
Bird, they kill it. They make a grilled cheese
I bet.
with brie, and it is so good on this like delicious, like crispy yet buttered perfectly bread.
Yeah.
So we'll be serving that at Palm Beach Food and Wine Festival next week. So,
Will
we'll be
you?
doing that, yeah, for sure.
What day are you doing that?
Sunday. So we'll be at the grand tasting. Yeah.
Okay.
What's a good food to have with bourbon? Does it pair that way?
That's the best part of our bourbon dinners is that we do a whole menu. Like we'll do 4 to 5 courses paired with bourbon, and it really gives us a chance to be creative and find different foods that pair well. We love to go like Old South, like to do some Southern style food with it, hush puppies or slow braising. Burgoo. We did a burgoo, which is it's like a traditional
It's a poor Kentucky stew. Traditionally made with squirrel. We didn't use squirrel in ours.
Burgoo.
All the squirrels in Jupiter are nervous.
So
Peebo,
Kentucky.
you can get it together real quick. There is one thing that we did for Virginia. We know you're from Louisiana.
What'd you do?
And Peebo makes probably one of the best Sazerac cocktails I've ever had in my life. So
I love a Sazerac.
I had him batch up a little bit for you just to make sure that get a little bit of that touch of home.
Make a little bit for Kevin too. Have you ever had a Sazerac?
No.
It is one
I've
of
heard of it.
It is the cocktail, second only to the Hurricane from New Orleans. It goes Sazerac, Hurricane. They're interchangeable. Hand grenade is disgusting, but people love it. And then probably big ass beers on Bourbon Street.
Guess who's back?
So
Sazerac.
This is the Sazerac, and I'm sure the Sazerac bar in New Orleans is probably one of the coolest bars I've ever been to in my life.
It really is.
Yeah, it's really neat.
And when you're in the Sazerac bar, get a Sazerac, but also get a Ramos Gin Fizz.
Yeah.
Because the preparation on that cocktail is...
Peebo hates making
Make the bartenders hate you. Yeah, order a Ramos.
But tip big. Tip 100% on your drink if you make them make a Ramos Gin Fizz.
Do you have a favorite drinking city? What would you say is the best American drinking city that we have?
That's a good one. I mean, New York's had some great cocktail bars.
Really?
It's New York.
Chicago's probably a close second.
Start spreading the news.
But yeah, New York's good.
What makes New York the best drinking city in America? Is it just the volume and the many places you can go?
Options.
Yeah, I think that. And I think it's
It's the quality of it's the quality of the bartender.
Yeah.
It's the quality of the staff.
Really? It's that
Quality of the establishment.
That's where you go if you want to be a serious bartender. You go to New York.
Okay.
Top 100 bars in the world. New York probably has 15.
Yeah.
20.
Really?
And we're always kind of a little bit behind the times here. So like there's great cocktail programs here in Palm Beach County that do a fantastic job. But New York, it's just it's kind of like the standard. You go there and you're gonna.
Well,
get
I didn't realize that's the major leagues then.
Yeah, and a lot of the people that like Peebo emulates or that we think are like the cool.
Yeah.
We don't like to use mixologist. He doesn't like that term.
So it's almost like a kid that would love football and they know a Patrick Mahomes. As a bartender, you would have a Patrick Mahomes of
and
bartending.
Well, who would you say that would be, Peebo? I mean, that's like Death & Co. is like the big one that's really popular. But like,
I mean, it's.
So you actually know some of these people for their bartending skills?
Dale DeGroff is
it's
the
Dale
big
DeGroff,
one.
Wow.
And then David Wondrich.
Okay.
I mean, they're two of my mentors.
Okay.
All that being said, there is a huge Tales of the Cocktail, which takes place in New Orleans, a huge
Huge convention.
I would say
convention
that's-
for
Because I
like,
was wondering if you're going to say New Orleans. That was my thought.
they're up there for
I
sure.
would say New Orleans is 2.
Two,
Okay.
really? Okay.
Wow.
And you're saying Chicago. Okay, so those
Chicago would be probably 3.
Yeah,
are okay.
LA, San Francisco kind of follows up there.
San Francisco is great too.
Austin has a great program.
Austin, yes.
Yeah.
We're going to be there in August.
Yeah,
That's
I
cool.
can't
So
wait, never
Garrison
been.
Brothers, Deep Eddy in Austin.
Right around the corner.
You're going to be there
Cheetos.
too.
I am.
Yeah.
Where the hell are we going?
Yeah.
We're going to boot camp.
But I would say like Tales of the Cocktail. Virginia, have you ever been to that?
My sister goes every year, but I have not been to Tales of the Cocktail.
It's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, it looks fantastic.
That's so pretty.
All right,
by
so
the way,
people, tell them
Peebo.
about the Sazerac.
So I actually made a cocktail a la Louisiane. It's my favorite whiskey cocktail. It's a spin on a Sazerac. It's like if a Manhattan and a Manhattan and an old fashioned had a baby in New Orleans.
Oh, that's so good.
so
Peebo.
rye whiskey,
That is
sweet vermouth,
great.
Benedictine, and then Peychaud's bitters. Yeah, it's lemon peel, absinthe as well. This one's been sitting in a barrel for about 60 to 80 days. They're a small 3-liter barrel, so it ages pretty quickly. So yeah, super smooth, really easy to drink, very aromatic on your nose.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great cocktail.
That is so cool.
Smells great.
That's
Oh,
great.
I love that.
You forgot to make me one, but that's fine. I'll be okay.
Look at that classy ass ice cube.
It's so smooth.
So all of our
It
ice
is.
cubes are laser cut, triple filtered ice cubes. We spend more money on ice cubes than like most of the ingredients in the cocktail.
Do you really? The ice cube
Yeah,
actually
it
can be
matters.
expensive.
Ice does
It
matter.
68 cents a cube.
68 cents a cube.
No,
wow.
are you serious?
And you should see what happens if we don't have them and I order a drink. It's a nightmare.
Oh, I could get 3 cubes at
No
my liquor
way.
store for that kind of money.
That's great. I never would have imagined that ice
Yeah.
was that kind of 68 cents a cube.
Yep.
I'll share with you, Dave. You
When we
want that?
first opened,
What in the hell?
Dave said I couldn't make them myself, and I told him I could with like $30. And I bought like an igloo cooler because it's all about.
I didn't think
basically
making ice was hard.
insulation. Well, it's not, but to make it clear is really hard.
Ah.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of
This is
impurities
glass
in our water.
clear.
Yeah, absolutely.
This
Yeah.
cube is clear as glass.
Never knew that was a thing.
Wow.
You know, it's just not to toot Peebo's horn anymore, but he's just so good at what he does, and just
Yeah.
these little decisions that you don't realize until you really somebody says, "Hey, look at the cube. Look at this cocktail. Look how good it is."
When you talk about this level of making cocktails, I am fascinated by just what goes into it.
Yeah, and it's I always like try and challenge him every quarter, every couple of months, come up with new drinks, and it's like the other day I'm like, man, we should just run your greatest hits because some of those cocktails are so
right.
fantastic, like the one you're having now.
This is fantastic.
This is so good.
This is a Sazerac?
It's
It's
close to
it's
it.
an a la Louisiane, which is like a spin on a Sazerac. It's a little
Yeah.
not quite as old. Introduction of sweet vermouth and Benedictine.
Because this is
rounds it
smooth.
out.
This is an easy drinker. This isn't, yeah.
Kevin didn't know it was a full Sazerac.
I know, right? I will claim my ignorance on all this stuff. That's
So,
why
hey,
I'm
he
drinking
gets
it all
me
in.
too. There's times when I'm just like, what?
What?
Like,
What am I
is
drinking?
that? Okay, yeah, Peebo, what is that again?
It's cool.
Just drink it.
Yeah. Well, I got to tell you, Peebo, got to put you at the top of the list. And it's so cool you made it on Bartender Appreciation Day and didn't even realize it.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
Giving you a shout out because there is a difference. And I never had any idea that it was so elaborate. I've seen those people that have the aprons and they're making things smoke and they got goggles on and all that kind of stuff. I just thought, I'm like, that's just an act.
I'm going to
right?
have to get you some goggles.
Yeah.
Goggles, apron,
Yeah.
smoke. You do smoke too,
We
right?
do, yeah. We do.
They have
smoke
smoked
vegetables, yeah,
cocktails.
for sure. And it's got its place too. Like there's always times when that's a great cocktail to have. Or
You should have some of this in the evening. Kind of makes you a little horny.
Yeah, okay. That'll be hot.
Absinthe.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can be all horny so your wife can turn you down. That'd be great.
Blue balls roasted.
Blue balls.
Sounds so
you
awesome.
can have that when you want to get to bed early and just like crash at 9 o'clock. right?
Can you make a drink, people, called the Bourbon and Blue Balls?
Yeah.
Done on my next menu. See you in January.
Bourbon and blue ball.
Super cold.
It's very
Dedicated to
cold.
me, yeah.
It's very frustrated.
Bourbon definitely has the opposite effect on that too. So
Oh, man. That's fun. Well, we'll definitely stop in to see you guys. I appreciate you guys coming in today.
it is our
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Yay.
Yeah, to Turtle
Thank you guys
River
so much.
and all that.
Yeah,
That's so
yeah.
cool. Yeah, my full disclosure here, my wife is teaching Dave's son.
Oh,
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
It's
That's
there at Turtle
awesome.
River. Yeah,
Is
it's
that
my
the
wife's new school.
The bourbon talking?
No, that's the real.
Yeah, that's the real, baby.
I forgot to tell him I was coming here today because can I watch it later on TV? I'm like, I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know. We'll see. It depends on how crazy it gets.
We'll then watch the regular show when you guys are on there.
For sure, yeah.
Nice and adult, so that's very cool. So thank you so much.
It is absolutely our pleasure.
We did have some other shout-outs here that people, because I said, hey, if you want to shout out your bartenders,
yes,
you can do that. And I want to do a few. Marlon and Natalie at Buffalo Wild Wings in Wellington on State Route 7.
Oh, we love them.
They're awesome. Tex said we've been going there for a year since we won Wings for a Year when you guys were there a year ago.
Yes, I remember that. That was so fun.
And that's a great location. I do love that one. And Chris said, I'd like to shout out the best bartender to my wife, April. She's a bartender at Three Olives in Port St. Lucie. She's working tonight for the karaoke party.
Okay.
Friday karaoke is going to get turned.
If you go out tonight, though, that is a good tip. Tip your bartenders because it's Bartender Appreciation Day.
Look, I mean, if it's not going to kick us off the internet, let's do a little singing.
Can we do some karaoke, Kev?
Go right ahead. Yeah, what do you want to sing?
It's a dealer's choice.
Peebo loves to sing.
What do you got, Peebo?
Acapella.
Look at him. With the way he freezes. Oh, people loves to sing. He's like,
What do you like to sing?
How about a whiskey song? You got a whiskey song in you?
No, I get
no
it.
whiskey
It's
music.
a lot.
Yeah.
The whiskey ain't working anymore.
And also let people know, too, for groups that are out there. Turtle River, obviously, Dave is here because of my wife being there at the school, and they were looking for some auction items. And we offer that up for lots of schools. In fact, Barbara sent an email. She said, next Friday is St. Andrews Episcopal Academy's Winter Gala at the Pelican Yacht Club, and we're auctioning off a spot on your show.
Woohoo!
Tickets are on sale now to attend the event, or folks can log in starting today and bid on all kinds of amazing items. Give us a shout out and support this fun event. Thank you for your tremendous generosity and all you do for our community. We treasure you. Thank you, Barbara. And yeah, it's something that we do. So if you want to come in here, you can do the dirt and things like that. It's an item that people get a chance to get on the radio. And Dave did a beautiful thing coming in here today, talking about his business and what they do. And we got a great education out of it about bourbon.
And a great motherfucking buzz.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, just to be able to come in and hang out was great, and it raised money for the school. And I won't tell you what I paid for it, but
Yeah.
Was it more or less than $400?
Oh, more.
Way more?
Yeah, it did.
Really?
It went really high.
I think so. Yeah.
Wow.
For this?
I know, right?
They do well.
And then you had to bring in all this booze?
I had to give death stares to anybody else who was bidding on it at the gala too. I
Oh,
was
that's
like,
funny.
Hey, it's mine.
Don't even touch that.
You're kind of intimidating.
Don't touch that.
I think he's a gentle giant.
He is, but he's tall.
I said gentle
Just
giant.
like Evan.
And just like Evan. I introduced him.
Right.
This is my friend Evan.
Evan, yeah.
That's pretty embarrassing.
Oh, it was terrible.
She was mortified,
Oh
but and I just whispered in her ear, put your fucking glasses on. It's Dave.
But look on their name tags. It says Peebo, also not Evan.
Also not Evan.
Dave, not Evan. On their name tag. Alexis, also definitely not Evan.
Definitely not Evan.
I love it.
That's fantastic. Well,
Evan's
thanks.
great, by the way. Great guy.
Evan is
Yeah.
great. So
Great guy.
Evan runs Civil right across the street.
We've had Evan, yeah.
And he's my neighbor.
And he is a tall motherfucker.
Wait, he's your fucking neighbor,
He's my
and you didn't
fucking
recognize
neighbor.
him?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
He lives like across the golf course, and I drink a lot. We've established this.
Yeah.
So much.
It's great too. Well, I thank you guys for coming in. I had a really good time. Fun little thing to do on a
for having
Friday. Bartender Appreciation Day.
I also, we said earlier, you asked me who my favorite bartender was, and I said Franny, but I didn't know where she was bartending. She's bartending tonight at Double Roads. So go to Double Roads and tip my girl Franny because it's Bartender Appreciation Day.
I love it. I just feel so nice and relaxed.
Okay. Just to make sure we get this, because people are still texting in, can you please share their name, please? Brick and Barrel in Abaco and Jupiter.
Yep. Abacoa.
Took care of it.
It's
That's it,
right
yeah.
across from the catty corner to Civil Society.
So it's the old Rooney space.
Old
Oh, yeah.
Rooney's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Great spot.
We're also like a huge Eagles bar, Philadelphia Eagles bar.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, I'm a diehard Eagles fan. So
You're going to be happy, looking good.
Yeah, it's solid. We get a really great turnout, and then in 2 weeks it's the Eagles Steelers. So we want to kind
I'm
of
a
like throw
Steelers
back to
guy.
Rooney's. I loved Rooney's when I was growing up. Like I used to go there all the time.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
so we're gonna do something for the Steagles game.
I'm gonna come up there, get hammered, and you're gonna kick me out. Sound good?
Probably not, but yeah, let's do it.
That would be awesome. He's like, Kevin, I love you, but
I mean, a Steelers jersey.
You got to go.
Get the fucking
You gotta
guy outta
leave.
here.
You're a little much.
Fuck you, Dave. Fuck the Eagles.
You gave me your bourbon. It's on you, man.
Fuck you, Evan.
I mean, that fits perfectly in line with the Philly fans, right? I mean,
Yes.
Oh yeah, just get some batteries and throw that
Yeah.
Santa Claus.
That'll be great. We'll start a fight and turn over some tables and have a good old time.
Punch a horse and you're in Philly.
Punch a horse.
Exactly.
That's the right way to go out, man. That's all good. All right, y'all have an amazing weekend. Enjoy it. We'll see you back here on Monday. Goodbye.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.